Dan, we have a serious problem. My phone screen displayed a call from Billy Ray Seymour, my new COO. What's going on, Billy Ray? I just got a call from the contracts department. They said the contract has been protested. The contract date will be postponed. And you'll never guess who filed the protest. Are you kidding? Bart Ramsey? Well, not him directly, but his main small business partner. You know, NAMPAX. They're not only a small company, but they're also owned by a woman. Angel, turn off that damn vacuum cleaner for a second. Angel, turn off the vacuum cleaner. Okay, where were we? I'm in shock. I just don't know what to say. His persistence is admirable. Is he a war hero or something? You know, this reminds me of a movie. Everything reminds you of movies, Dan. Yeah, I know. Have you ever seen The Magnificent Seven, Billy Ray? Not the new one with Denzel, but the old one with Yul Brynner, Steve McQueen, James Coburn, Charles Bronson, and Robert Vaughn. All those actors became big movie stars, but the best actor in that movie was Eli Wallach. He played Calvera, the leader of a band of bandits who rode around Mexican villages south of El Paso, terrorizing them. One of these villages had had enough of the raids, so they gathered gold and silver items from their altar and went to hire American gunmen to protect their village. When Calvera returns to the village and meets the seven, he complains that they have gone soft and left the religious relics behind. He said, "This shows you that sooner or later you have to answer for every good deed." And that became the source of the meme, "No good deed goes unpunished." Man, I love that movie. It's my dad's favorite, by the way. I'm not sure I understand, Dan. She said protests like this are common and don't accomplish anything. Besides, we're not in charge here, and you know Lockheed won't let anyone get in the way. So all we can do is smile and grin for 3 or 4 weeks until the results are announced. It's not the best situation, but it could be worse. All right, Billy Ray. Keep me posted. I hung up the phone. I turned to my lovely personal assistant. Angel, dear, how many times have I told you that I can't hear the phone when the vacuum cleaner is on? And why are you doing that? I pay you to be a maid. If you keep this up, I'll fire the maid and your cousin Maria will be out of a job. No, Dan, please don't do that. I'm really sorry, but this new cordless phone is so much fun to use, and the mindless repetition is so soothing after hours of reading requests for proposals. Angel Ramirez has been my personal assistant for 4 years, since I founded my company. Many bosses say that, but I really mean it. She has become indispensable to me. Without her, my business would not have survived. She is incredibly intelligent, efficient, hard-working, analytical, observant, and perceptive. She is my secret weapon in all my business relationships. In addition, she possesses most of the qualities that superficial men value. Petite, seductive, with jet black hair, dark eyes, and olive skin. Imagine Salma Hayek in the movie Desperado. Angela comes from an incredibly large Spanish-speaking family. She has 3 sisters and 3 brothers, countless nieces and nephews, 6 or 7 living aunts and uncles on both sides, and at least 20 or 30 cousins, including my maid Maria. I won't go into detail about my 2nd and 3rd generation cousins. In any case, it's a big family, and if things continue as they are, I'll end up hiring most of them. So far, besides Maria, there's my cousin Fernando, who is my driver, my cousin Carmen, who is my cook, my cousin Julio, who is my security guard, my cousin Hector, who is my IT director, my cousin Juanita, who is my human resources director, and many others. I'm not complaining. Every one of them is an excellent employee. It was from this network of cousins that I learned the shocking news that Angela had been in love with me since her first year working for me. I had no idea. I'm a faithful man. Until I caught her in bed with old Bart, I only had eyes for my wife Mel. Imagine my surprise when I found my cousin Carmen and my cousin Fernando whispering in the kitchen. All I heard as I walked by was, "Do you think he knows?" And not a clue. "What? Who knows what? Carmen replied, while Fernando clutched the bottle in his hands. Just another cousin, Dan. She's been in love with her boss for a long time and is afraid to tell him. But she's afraid that if she doesn't, he'll never guess. And she'll die an old maid. What cousin? Do I know her? Does she work for me? No, boss, you don't know her. She's Uncle Javier's daughter from the Hernandez family. And what's the problem? Is that guy mentally challenged? Does he ride the bus for idiots or something? Yeah, pretty much. Well, if he's that dumb, why does she want him? We're racking our brains over it. Probably because he's got a heart. Maybe. In any case, she should tell him. Even if he rejects her, short-term pain is better than lifelong regret. It's a shame Mel didn't tell me she was cheating on me before I married her. Fernando joined the conversation. But boss, she's friends with this guy and she's afraid of losing her friendship and her job. Well, if he's even half a man, he'll do the right thing. Tell her he'll always be her friend and that she can keep her job if she wants. I wouldn't fire someone for loving me unless he's married, right? No, he's not married. What does that mean? He's either married or he's not. Well, he's in the process of getting divorced. Ferdy said this with a slight smile. I noticed it, and then it dawned on me. Are you talking about me? Angel? They rolled their eyes at the same time, as if to say, how can you be so dense? No, it can't be. She didn't say a word. She didn't let anything slip. You guys are completely out of the loop. She told us both, straight up. I started whining. What am I supposed to do now? I don't want any new romances. I prefer to deal with my failures one at a time. Like a true soldier, Carmen joined the conversation. Sorry, Dan. We can't give you any advice because Angel has already hired us as her confidential advisors. It would be unethical. You little bastards! And what's this nonsense about a short bus? I'm firing you both. You've already fired me twice this week, boss, but I'm still here. Proverbial bad peso. Isn't it time for you to have dinner? And don't you need to do something with the car? With that, I left the kitchen and headed down the hall to my refuge, the gym, where I sat down on a bench and thought. What was I supposed to do with this new information? I was mentally prepared for anything except love. That's what happens when you grow up in an orphanage. My parents died in the Columbia Space Shuttle explosion when I was 8 years old. No, they weren't astronauts. They were driving home from the set of The Magnificent Seven at about the same time the shuttle caught fire over Texas. One of the landing gear assemblies fell directly onto their Tercel, which was traveling on Highway 40. They didn't even realize what had hit them. I had no other relatives, so they left me at home with my mother's best friend, Cheryl. But being good Catholics, they sent me to St. Joe's, an all-boys school. I received a lot of guidance, but not much love. I still bear the scars from that. Literally, I still have huge scars on my back from the numerous beatings I received from Father Flanagan. But I have to say that his discipline prepared me for military service and 6 tours in the sandbox. God bless him, I still visit him every month at Limestone Prison. Mel was my first girlfriend, my first love, my first wife. I loved her and grew accustomed to her love, and she dropped a bomb on all of that. I don't think I'll ever be able to trust like that again. Angel is a good girl, but Mel was a good girl too. Look how that turned out. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. What was Angel thinking? What right did she have to fall in love with me? Just when I was starting to forget Mel, she came along and ruined everything? Unbelievable. And just when I was getting back to work on my 3rd doctoral dissertation, I got up from the bench and started hitting the punching bag. In my rage, I lost track of time. I hadn't wrapped my hands, and when I finally ran out of breath, all my knuckles were bloody. Cursing, I went back upstairs. Looking at my bloody hands, I almost knocked over my annoying assistant, who had apparently just walked in. Ugh, Dan, what's wrong with you? Got a little carried away with boxing. Was that during training? What happened to you? If you're not going to wrap your hands, at least know when to stop. She grabbed my hand and dragged me down the hall to the main bathroom. She turned on the cold water and shoved my hands under the stream. I screamed like a little kid, but she held them there. Keep them under the water while I find the first aid kit. She rummaged through the towel cabinet and pulled out a bunch of tubes and a brown bottle with something inside. Angel, if you pour alcohol on my fingers, they'll find you floating face down in the Tennessee River. Oh, shut up, you big baby. It's not rubbing alcohol, it's peroxide. With that, she poured the liquid onto my cut hands, and it hissed and foamed and burned like hell. Okay, maybe it wasn't as bad as rubbing alcohol, but it still burned. Then she started dabbing my joints and applying triple antibiotic cream. 5 more minutes and she was done, bandages, gauze, and tape in place. I said to her, embarrassed, "Thanks, Angel. Sorry for causing you so much trouble." Tired and disappointed in myself and the world, I said, "Tell Carmen I won't be coming to dinner. Eat without me. I'm going to bed." And that's what I did. Tomorrow, I'd have to deal with Bart and Angel before either problem got out of hand. I didn't sleep well. The nightmares were back, with a vengeance. They started after my last tour. We were on a routine patrol in Anbar when my Hummer hit a homemade explosive device. My driver and gunner were killed instantly. I lost consciousness. I came to when my best friend, Mike Williams, pulled me out of the burning car and dragged me into his. As we turned to leave, his driver hit another improvised explosive device. The blast threw me out of the car, and the last thing I saw was Mike's arm sticking out through the wall of flames. I woke up 3 months later from an induced coma. My body was riddled with holes like a cheese grater, but I seemed to be recovering. Unfortunately, one of the wounds to my head damaged my vision, and my career as a sniper was over. Since I spoke Pashto, Farsi, and 4 other languages, I was offered a job as a translator, but I chose to resign for health reasons. Shortly after returning home, I met Mel. She was one of my physical therapists at the Veterans Hospital. This was before she went into real estate. We fell in love at first sight. 3 months later, we were living together in her apartment. And then the nightmares began. Strangely enough, I started fighting aggressively, sweating profusely, and apparently experiencing intense arousal. I lost my virginity when Mel attacked me while trying to calm me down. It worked. Thanks to her treatment, the nightmares stopped after about 4 months. But she didn't stop the treatment for another 6 months, until she finally realized that I was faking it. But believe me, post-traumatic stress is real. And now it's back. But, as wise people say, life goes on. I got out of bed. I had 2 urgent problems to solve. First, I was going to call Angel. When I picked up the phone, it rang, and I saw that it was Billy Ray again. "What the hell?" I said, pressing the button. "What now, Billy Ray?" "Good news this time, Dan. Nampax has dropped the protest. It turns out Bart pissed Marla off, and she's decided she's not going to play his games anymore. So the contract will be signed the day after tomorrow at the Pentagon. You need to be there. I already talked to Angel. She's getting everything organized while we talk." "That's really good news. I'll get in touch with Angel to discuss the details. I'll take her with me. Can you keep an eye on things here?" "Sure, Dan. Go sign that contract so we can get to work." "All right, BR. Keep an eye on Bart Ramsey. He's a wounded tiger right now, so who knows what he's capable of." "Got it, Dan. Safe travels, everyone." As soon as he hung up, I called Angel. "Billy Ray says you have all the information you need, so I'll leave the ticket and hotel reservations to you. You're flying too, right?" "Yes, Dan. I've already booked everything. We have tickets for the 1:15 p.m. flight to Washington Reagan and rooms at the Crystal Gateway Hotel. There's a shuttle from the airport. On Wednesday, Lockheed will send a car to pick us up at 12:45 and take us to the Pentagon. Everything's ready." "Great. Thanks for organizing everything as always. See you in the morning. We'll try to leave for the airport around 11:45. I know. I didn't tell her how I felt. Given the important matters at hand, I decided to put off talking about our relationship. I also decided to wait and see what happened with Ramsey. Our flight was on time. We caught the bus and arrived at the hotel early enough to check in and have dinner at the hotel restaurant. As usual, Angel booked us a 2-bedroom suite. Before going to our rooms, we sat on the sofa in the common area and discussed our plans for the next day. Then we wished each other good night and went to bed. I don't know about Angel, but traveling always tires me out, so I fell asleep quickly. 2 or 3 hours later, I was awakened by a nightmare. Mike Williams' burning hand and face. I felt someone shaking me and heard a voice calling my name. The next thing I remember is waking up with Angel lying on top of me, crying. "Oh, Dan, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry." She repeated this over and over until I interrupted her. "Angel, stop. You have nothing to be sorry for. I'm the one who should be asking for forgiveness. I made you—" "No, no, no. I wanted this, Dan. I've wanted this for a long time. But you were married and I didn't want to break up your family, so I didn't say anything. And even after you filed for divorce, I couldn't say anything. I love working for you and being your friend. You're my best friend. You know that? I knew that sex would complicate everything and I would lose my job and you as a friend. Now I've ruined everything and I'm going to lose everything." She burst into tears, burying her face in my chest and hugging me tightly. I stroked her hair and kissed her on the top of her head. "You won't lose anything, Angel. Lie down here. We'll talk about it tomorrow." When I woke up the next morning, Angel was not in bed. Afraid that she had done something stupid, like quitting her job and going home, I jumped out of bed and went to look for her. I found her in the living room, fully dressed, and waiting for me. I quickly took a shower, got dressed, and we went down to breakfast. We talked during the meal. She started. "Dan, I'm sorry about last night. I don't know what came over me. You were yelling, waving your arms around, and sweating like crazy. I love you, Dan. Ever since I met you." "I know. Carmen told me." "That useless bitch. I'll kill her. I don't care if she's my cousin. She swore she'd keep my secret." "Calm down, Angel. It was an accident. I overheard her talking to Ferdy in the kitchen. When I asked them about it, they told me everything. I have to admit, I wasn't thrilled about the news at first. I'm just starting to get over Mel, damn it. My divorce isn't even final yet. There are only 2 weeks left. I just thought it was too much for me. Last night was a mistake. My PTSD flared up again, and sex seems to calm it down. But Angel, I would never fire you. I don't want you to leave. You're my best friend, too. I already love you as a friend, so maybe moving on to something more isn't such a big step. Let's give it a try and see how it goes. When the divorce is final, I'd like us to start dating. I want to court you, Angel, if I can figure out how to do that." She was ready to cry again. I leaned across the table and kissed her gently on the lips. She whispered, "I'd like to try that with you, Dan." We finished breakfast, returned to our room to freshen up, and then got into a limousine that took us to the Pentagon. Getting to the Pentagon was easy. Getting to the right conference room was more difficult. We had to walk about 7 miles along the outer ring road. Finally, we arrived, but we had to wait another 20 minutes for a high-ranking official who had been assigned to bless our union. This time, it was the assistant to the deputy secretary of defense for weapons or something like that. She was an attractive but very serious lady. Announcing the award and presiding over the signing ceremony, she said she looked forward to the unprecedented success of the synergistic relationship between the Department of Defense and the Lockheed Dunwoody engineering team. In her words, the Joint Air-to-Ground Offensive Fast Flight JAGOFF missile system will provide the U.S. Armed Forces with superiority in future combat operations. I couldn't have said it better myself. We returned home and got to work on the contract. Lockheed was responsible for the hardware. We developed the software. Life was busy, so busy that I didn't even notice when my marriage finally fell apart. Angel, however, didn't miss that day. "Are you going to ask me out on a date, Dan?" "Yes. Put on your little black dress. Let's go out to dinner and dancing." I took her to a new steakhouse called Tom Brown's and then to a dance club. It was the first of many dates. For 3 months, I was completely captivated by her. Now my whole life, personal and professional, revolved around her. As my love for her grew, the nightmares disappeared, without treatment. I never touched her again. Everything was wonderful with Angel, but not everything was rosy in Dan's world. Our buddy Bart was causing trouble again, trying to sabotage our work on the JAGOFF contract. As usual, the bad news came over the phone from Billy Ray. Dan, we've lost 2 programmers and a systems engineer in the last 3 weeks. All good people. 2 of them were on the list of key employees we included in our proposal. They're all leaving to work for Bart. How is that possible, Billy Ray? I thought he was almost shut down. Oh, he won some paltry contract for $40 million or so, with the Coast Guard Reserve, and now he's fleecing us. He gave those guys a 40% raise and a bunch of personal time to move over to him. Rumor has it, he's not going to stop there. He's also put feelers out in the programming department. He talked to you, Billy Ray? Dan, it hurts that you think I'd pay any attention to that piece of shit. I would never betray you like that. You saved my life, pulled me out of a burning building in Fallujah. If it weren't for you, I'd be a piece of burnt toast right now. So I'm hurt that you think that... All right, Billy Ray. I'm sorry I questioned your loyalty. What are we going to do about Bart? I don't know. I was hoping you had some ideas. Okay, for starters, tell everyone to contact you if they hear anything from Ramsey or any of his people. Tell them it's just common courtesy to give us a chance to make a counteroffer. In the meantime, I'll look for a long-term solution. The next few weeks passed fairly quietly. Angela and I spent as much time together as work would allow. She would sometimes drop by my office. We would have lunch together or drink coffee and talk. One day she came in to chat, and I noticed that she seemed preoccupied. What's going on, Angela? What are you afraid to tell me? Ask you, Dan. I have a question I don't want to ask you. Nonsense. You can ask me anything. Okay. My niece Selena is turning 15 in 2 weeks, and I have to go home for her quinceanera, and I want you to drive me. What's so complicated about that? The answer is, yes, I'll drive you. She smiled, turned, and walked out of the room, swaying her hips slightly. So, 2 weeks later, I found myself on a plane to San Antonio with Angel, eagerly anticipating and simultaneously dreading meeting 200 relatives I didn't know, and wondering how many of them would move to Alabama next month to work for me. Quince was gorgeous. Her family filled the Knights of Columbus Hall and celebrated sweet little Selena's birthday. I met Angel's parents for the first time. As expected, they were wonderful people. The day after the celebration, we all gathered for lunch at their house, where I met another 50 or 60 relatives. After lunch, we all gathered outside in the shade, and I took Angel by the hand, got down on one knee, and took the ring out of my pocket. Angel, I love you with all my heart and soul. Will you spend the rest of your life with me? Her eyes widened in surprise. She covered her face with her hands and then started jumping up and down and shouting, "Yes, yes, yes," over and over again. "Angel, Angel, slow down. Will you marry me?" "Oh, yes, Dan. I'll marry you. But first you have to ask my father." "Oh, I already did. Last night, at the party. I didn't ask you last night. That would have been unfair to Selena." "You're right, Dan. You're so kind and thoughtful. You've made me so happy." With that, she started jumping again. This time she was joined by about 50 cousins who hugged her, clung to her, and tried to see her engagement ring. I was glad to be pushed aside and went over to the beer and ice bucket. Standing there, sipping my Modelo, I felt someone approaching and turned around. It was Uncle Frank and his huge assistant. "Welcome to the family, Mr. Woody. I hope you and my niece Angelina will be very happy together. And I trust you will always treat her well. Also, if there's ever anything I can do for you, please let me know." He slipped his business card into my shirt pocket, smiled, turned, and walked away. On the plane home, Angela and I talked about the weekend, her family, and our future life together. I suppose you, your mom, and your sisters have already planned everything for the wedding? No, but we've made a good start. My cousin Val is sewing my dress. My cousin Gina is baking the cake. My sister Teresa is doing the flowers. My brothers are organizing the reception. It's going to be a barbecue. Carmen is helping them with the food. Gina's husband, Louis, plays in a mariachi band, so he'll be playing with his brother Carlos, who's a DJ. Wow! You organized all that since yesterday? So when's the wedding? I don't want a long engagement, Dan. Do you? Don't you think 3 months is enough? I want to marry you so I can start having your children. I laughed at her enthusiasm and shuddered at the implied responsibility. But I also couldn't help imagining how seductive she would be with that voluptuous body swollen with pregnancy. Okay, what are we talking about? It's the middle of May. You're talking about the middle of August. It'll be hot as Africa in San Antonio in the middle of August. Okay then, we can wait until the middle of September. It'll be cooler by then. Let's say September 15th. I looked at her very seriously. I took a deep breath and exhaled very slowly. I held my breath for a few seconds, then exhaled. Okay, let's do it. She burst into tears. Oh, Dan, I love you so much. I rolled my eyes, shook my head, and hugged her. Although I had a wonderful time with Angel's family, I was glad to get back to work. Remembering the names of 200 relatives and friends is no easy task. I was exhausted, but work was going well. We had replaced the employees who had quit and were working at full capacity. A few days after we returned, Angel stopped by my office to remind me about the upcoming Toys for Tots summer charity event. Dan, there's a margarita party on Friday night, and we bought 2 tickets. You need to get your tux out and dust it off. Oh no, Angel. You know I hate those things. And Friday is the first test of the software module. It will probably go into Saturday or even Sunday. I really want to support the cause, but you have to sacrifice yourself for the team. Take Carmen with you. She'll love it. I could see she didn't like it, but she nodded in agreement, pouted, and left. On Friday afternoon, between test runs, I called Fernando. Ferdy, I want you to take Angel and Carmen to that dance tonight. Most importantly, keep an eye on them like a hawk. I'd bet my life that Ramsey will be there, and I don't trust that bastard. So be on your guard and take precautions, you know what I mean? Sure, Dan, I got it. Hey, I'll bring Julio with me. He hasn't beaten anyone up in a while. I know he'd love to come with us. All right, guys, take care of our girls. I returned to the tedious world of software testing. I lost track of time and forgot to call Fernando. When the phone rang, I saw that it was already 11:30. Dan, we're back home. Everything's fine, but there was a bit of commotion. It was Bart Ramsey again. He somehow managed to sit between Angel and Carmen. I watched them as you asked, boss. Before the DJ started playing dance music, I saw him slip something into her drink. She drank it before I could get close, so I stepped back to see what Ramsey would do next. He pulled her onto the dance floor. I grabbed Carmen and ran out there, as close to them as I could. Julio stayed behind and watched. I saw Ramsey's bodyguard come through the door and signal to him. Ramsey started dancing with Angel toward the door. I could tell by her eyes that she was high. I ran over to Julio and tackled the bodyguard, while I snuck up behind Bart. He was almost at the door when I put the gun to his back, and Julio did the same to the bodyguard. I grabbed Angel by the arm and pulled her with me. I told Julio to grab Carmen, and we all ran out of there. That was close, boss. Damn it. This is all my fault. I should have killed that bastard when I caught him with Mel. Well, that was Mr. Ramsey's 3rd miss. Are you sure Angel is okay? Yes, Dan. She's asleep. Carmen is lying next to her in bed. Julio is sitting outside the door. She'll be fine. Ferdy, I owe you big time. Julio, too. Tell him I'm grateful. We'll talk in the morning. I got home around 10 on Saturday morning. I checked on Angel. She was sleeping peacefully. I found Carmen in the kitchen. What happened last night, Carm? How did Ramsey get to Angel? I don't know, Dan. We found our business cards and noticed that we had been sitting together. And when dinner was served, Ramsey sat down in that seat. He started charming her, and the whole dinner was filled with love and tenderness. When the music started, he got up and asked Angel to dance. She hadn't paid any attention to him before, but now she had glassy eyes and went with him to the dance floor. I swear, Dan, I didn't see him put anything in her drink, but he must have. Otherwise, she would never have gone with him. I know, Carm. I don't blame you. No one could have predicted he would do that in that situation. Anyway, thanks for being there for her and helping her get home. She was crying big tears, and I held her tight. Carmen, can I ask you about your family? When we were at Selena's party, I met your Uncle Frank. He was a strange man, to say the least. What can you tell me about him? She leaned back and looked at me. Oh, Dan, we don't talk about our great-uncle Frank. He's our maternal grandmother's brother. She was from the Salazar family. He's also the head of the largest cartel in Chihuahua. That's why no one talks about Uncle Frank. Surprisingly, he seems like a kind and gentle man, and he loves children. When all the cousins were little, we loved it when he came to visit. He always brought piñatas with him. Why are you asking about him? Just curious, Carm. I was thinking about you and Fernando, how you saved Angel, and what a wonderful family you have. And then Uncle Frank's face popped into my head. Listen, I'm going to stop by the office for a couple of hours. Let Angel sleep. I talked to her this afternoon. I drove to the office, made myself a cup of coffee, sat down at my desk, and took the business card out of my wallet. I dialed the number on the card and leaned back in my chair. 2 days later, I was standing at the entrance to the Hampton Cove Waffle House at 3 in the morning when a heavily tinted Suburban pulled up. The driver got out, walked around the car, and opened the back door. I got in. The driver pulled onto U.S. Route 231. Hello, Senor Woody, or since you're part of the family now, may I call you Dan? Please, Mr. Salazar, and may I call you Uncle Frank? Of course, my pleasure. How can I help you? I told him about my problems with Ramsey, and he listened intently. When I got to the part where Bart tried to kidnap Angel, his eyes narrowed. He cursed quietly in Spanish and slammed his fists on his knees. I don't want to bother you with this, Uncle Frank, but since I'm Ramsey's direct competitor and we have a long history, I can't get directly involved. If it were just business, I wouldn't have called you. But when he attacked Angel, it became personal. I'm glad you called, nephew. I'll be happy to take care of this problem for you and my beloved niece. Perhaps I'll handle it myself. The thing is, Uncle Frank, the poor have no choice. But I don't want him dead. I want him to live and suffer. If he were a woman, I know you could send him to one of your Mexican brothels, but considering he's a man, I don't know what you could do. Dan, you're hurting me. We're a progressive cartel. Of course we offer services to all kinds of clients, except, of course, pedophiles. We bury them in the desert. We'll put Mr. Ramsey in our best male brothel, where he'll be very much alive and very unhappy. Thank you, Uncle Frank, thank you very much. I hope you will honor us with your presence at our wedding in September. I was very relieved. For 2 weeks, Bart Ramsey's disappearance was the main topic of local and national news. New information revealed that Bart had been quietly investigated for selling Coast Guard secrets to Mexican cartels. Several reports suggested that he had disappeared to avoid prosecution. In any case, he disappeared from our lives forever. Wedding preparations and catechism classes went smoothly, and on September 15th, I stood in a church in San Antonio and watched the most beautiful girl in the world walk down the aisle toward me. Of course, I had been standing there for 10 minutes while her 22 bridesmaids and attendants entered. But it was worth the wait. Meanwhile, 600 miles to the southwest in the small town of Delicias in the state of Chihuahua, Bartlett J. Ramsey, under the influence of drugs and wearing a Hannibal Lecter mask, was preparing to entertain his next client.